What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Standing Guillotine Podcast. It's been a little while, so now we are going to review UFC 291. Then we're going to talk about last week's UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Font, just a little bit. And then we're going to preview a tiny bit of Luque versus Dos Anjos. Obviously, as we start, this is kind of a little bit of a lull between 291 and 292. The cards are a little deplete of talent, but 292 is shaping up to be a pretty good card even with all the changes. And 291, we talked about it. Do you feel that was the fight of the year or the card of the year?
Could be.
I mean, so far.
Yeah, it could be. It was definitely all it was hyped up to be, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the main card absolutely delivered. I don't think that the prelims and early prelims were bad by any stretch of the imagination.
They had some good knockouts.
Yeah, like the amount of finishes in this fight were insane, right? So, starting from the bottom, right? Miranda Maverick with a submission win. Uros Medic with the KO.
Crazy KO.
Yeah, I also kind of want to know if he got a snowboard. Because that guy's a big snowboarder, and like a bunch of the other fighters at weigh-ins got snowboards, and he didn't. Just seems kind of weird that he didn't get a snowboard. So maybe if he didn't get a snowboard, then I'm asking for justice now and get that man a snowboard. Then you had Jake Matthews win by submission. You had Roman Kopylov win by KO.
Oh, that was a sick KO, too.
Yeah, that was the head kick, and then immediately lights out. Then, so all those were finishes. You had four finishes in a row before one unanimous decision in what was honestly the least interesting fight of the night. That was Vergara-Salvador.
Yep.
Like, Salvador looked surprised that he lost and he did nothing. Like, man needs to go back and watch that film and be disappointed in himself because he was just confused that he lost. And I was like, Vergara didn't really look great, but he looked better than somebody who did nothing. So, like, that was just an ugly fight.
More strikes, more significant strikes.
Right.
It basically was just strikes because there was no takedowns.
Right.
I mean, Vergara defended two, right? So.
Yeah, but I mean, really, really nothing going on. Like, if you look at the volume in that fight was low.
Yeah.
It's like 109 strikes total. Somehow there were 100% significant strikes. I think that might be a little screwy with the UFC page, but yeah.
197 strikes. Yeah, what?
Yeah, right.
Well, every strike that he landed was significant.
Apparently.
Because he only landed 60% of his strikes.
Yeah, which is fascinating. And then, like, in a 3-round fight, only throwing 89 punches for Salvador is just not going to get it done.
Yeah.
Just not going to get it done. Round 1, it was both of them threw 20 strikes. Round 2,
he had a clear game plan though, because he almost threw equal head, equal body strikes.
Yeah, like he was definitely working, but not effectively and not with enough volume. Like he threw, but not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at the next fight, which was a submission win for Gabriel Bonfim, living up to the hype. I was really surprised to see him. Oh, no, never mind. I'm reading that wrong. I thought he was the dog. He was, I was going to say a dog in that one would be weird, but he lived up to the hype. Kevin Holland getting
Bonfim was the dog.
Was the dog? Oh, plus is
plus
dog,
260.
Right? Yeah. That's kind of weird that he was the dog. I mean, he was 14-0. Like, Trevin Giles is a good fighter, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Trevin Giles. I just thought stylistically it wasn't a good match.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that was proven right off the bat, right? 1 minute and 13 seconds submission. 1 minute and 13-second knockout is incredible. 1 minute and 13-second submission is like, man, just went in there.
A minute and 13-second knockout, I feel is like something went wrong.
Right. Could be a fluke.
Right. You could have came in the camp. Like, you could have been, like, maybe a bad weight cut. Like, something probably happened. But to be submitted that quick, it's just, you weren't at the level.
Yeah, you just got ragdolled by a guy who is, I mean, like, if you look at his record, he's 15-0 with 12 submission wins. 100% finish rate. So 3 knockouts. Like,
Yep.
that's...
He punched him, took him to the ground, and then submitted him.
Yeah. Like, that was it. He was just done after that. Kevin Holland also getting the submission win, which, like, to be honest with you, I didn't even realize he had 7 wins by submission, or he had 6 at that point. This was win number 7. I would have guessed that this was a guy who just doesn't have submission wins. Like, that just doesn't seem like the Kevin Holland style.
Right.
Like, he's very much a striker, but, like, he does have a few. He's put a few together. In 2022, he had one against Tim Means. Going a little bit further back, like, it's been a while, though. Like, it's not frequent. In 2020, he had one. But, again, not typically the way that you would see Kevin Holland fight. Either way, still very impressive. He's up to number 12 now in the welterweight rankings. And so I guess that begs the question, where does he stand in the welterweight picture? Because right now, there's some interesting fights going on, right? So if you haven't yet heard the news, Jeff Neal stepped out of 292 and his fight against Ian Machado Gary. He's now being replaced by Neil Magny, which is definitely not going to help the people who mix up Neil Magny and Jeff Neal. If Bisping's on the call, I guarantee you he messes up like 4 or 5 times because he gets those two mixed up too. Yeah, he gets them mixed up all the time. So good on Neil Magny stepping up. But looking at the welterweight division, right? And then obviously this week you have Vicente Luque's fight, so he's number 10. So the people above Kevin Holland, Neil Magny, who is fighting on short notice, Vicente Luque, who is coming off of a layoff because he had a brain hemorrhage. So questionable whether or not he should even be fighting.
Right.
Then you have Sean Brady, Jeff Neal, Wonderboy Thompson, Shavkat, Rakhmonov, Gilbert Burns, Hamzat Chimaev, who was probably moving up, Bilal Muhammad, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman.
Who's getting the next title shot.
Right. And then Leon Edwards. So there's quite a bit in the division to go, and there's definitely some killers on that list, like especially as you break the top, in the top 10, I think there's some pretty difficult fights. But with the way that Holland has looked, especially his attitude in taking that fight against Hamzat, right? Being willing to put himself in a bad situation on short notice, then I think realistically what I'd love to see is a rematch with he just fought Wonderboy Thompson, so it's probably not going to happen. But that would be a fun fight because I do think the two of them, their style is not identical, but they use that same style of like hands down karate style striking.
Yeah.
I do think that is a great matchup on paper. I don't think it'll happen, and Stephen Thompson realistically should be fighting up, not down.
Well, he was supposed to fight somebody.
Yeah. So he was supposed to fight.
He didn't get who missed weight? Someone missed weight.
Yeah, I feel like Thompson was fighting somebody down. Because it wasn't...
He was supposed to fight...
Della Maddalena. It wasn't Chiesa. Who was that fight?
I forget who he was supposed to fight.
I'm looking it up. Let me see. Oh, Michelle Pajeda, who got taken out of the rankings because he
missed weight.
Missed weight, so Dana's making him move up. So, yeah, that makes sense. So even though Chiesa lost, he's now in the top 15 because they took somebody out. So, yeah, so now Thompson, I think he's owed a fight, but on short notice, it might be difficult to try and find one for him because, the only other fight that makes sense is Rakhmonov, but that's, if I'm Wonderboy, I'm not taking that fight. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns, is he still out from injury, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoulder. It was a bad shoulder injury.
Yeah, that was just in May, so that wasn't that long ago. Hamzat's probably moving up and also not a fight you want to take. Bilal, was he hurt? After that one, I can't remember. I think Bilal was hurt too.
Yeah, then here's foot.
Yeah. So, the people above him, the only options that he really has are, the only healthy options are Shavkat or Kamaru. neither of which is really a great fight.
No.
So, like, he may have to fight somebody beneath him, but, you know, Jeff Neal just pulled out because of an injury. Sean Brady lost. I don't know that he's injured. That could be a fight. But has Thompson fought Sean Brady recently?
Oh,
No, because
so.
Sean Brady's only had one loss, and that was to Bilal Muhammad. But I could see that being a decent fight. That would probably be the other one to make.
Yeah.
Because Wonder Boy, looking at his record, right, he beat Holland. That was his last fight, was against Kevin Holland. So that you probably can't run that back. There's no value in running that back, other than like Holland wanting to stay active and Wonder Boy getting a fight. Like, I don't think Kevin Holland's going to say no to that fight, because I don't think that man says no to anything.
Yeah, and Jeff Neal's fighting Rakhmonov next.
Yep. So, like, what are you going to do here? And then you have...
Wait, what? This is March 1st, 4th?
No, that fight got canceled, I think. No, Rakhmonov beat Jeff Neal. That was the last fight they had.
So Jeff Neal just, you said pulled out, right? And Neil Magny's taking his plate?
Yeah, and that's in 292, Ian Machado, Gary.
Oh, so Gary's fighting up.
Yeah. I mean, he was supposed to be fighting way up, if you look at...
Yeah, he's supposed to be fighting 8.
Yeah. Now it's a less minor jump, but... So, like, if we look at Wonder Boy's record, though, right? Like, you can't... Muhammad's hurt, but he just recently lost to him. Gilbert Burns is hurt, but he just recently lost to him. He's already fought Jeff Neal.
Wait, so Thompson was supposed to fight last fight, right?
Yeah, against Bajeda. Yep.
So why didn't Ian Machado Gary fight him in 292?
That's honestly what I think should have happened. That was what I was lobbying to happen. But I think after his comments about not getting paid, even though he made the weight cut, like, I really genuinely think that Dana
because didn't Dana say that he should have fought anyway?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, right? Dana was like, you should have fucking fought. Because it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think... I don't think Dana was going to take... at that point, he missed weight by, 3 pounds. I don't think Dana's going to, hold it against him.
Right. I mean, the way that it was described, so Thompson was saying that Dana White wasn't... he was on vacation, right? So the decision hadn't been made. So I think it was one of those things where, he wasn't in a position to turn around and figure something out for Thompson right away.
Yeah.
Which is weird, though, that he was able to immediately figure out something for 292. Right? So, Dana White doesn't have time right now. But then Dana White clearly has time, unless somebody else put the Jeff Neal replacement fight together, or the Neil Magny replacement fight together.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so that one's just kind of weird to me. And that leaves Wonder Boy in actually a really bad spot for the rest of the year, because that division's, frankly, tapped.
Yeah.
He's fought the people above him, so he's going to have to fight somebody beneath him. So I think, realistically, your best option is Sean Brady.
And that's never good.
Or Jack Della Maddalena. And neither of those are really enviable fights. Those are up-and-coming guys. But at some point, you have to prove you belong.
Right. But that, I can see why Wonder Boy's a little, heated about it. For sure. That was his chance to move up, prove his worth. But he was fighting, where was Bajeda in the rankings at that point? Was he above Thompson?
No, he was fighting down.
Oh, so he was fighting down anyway. Maybe it was the matchup. Maybe the matchup.
So
that's what a lot of it is too.
Yeah. So Sean Brady and Della Maddalena were scheduled to fight one another, but so he had a really bad staph infection back in 2021. He had a cut on his arm and massive swelling on his elbow that they were concerned about another staph infection.
Yeah.
God. Fucking. Right. But anyway, so that puts him out of the, like, potentially Sean Brady's out too, because I don't know, like, I haven't heard anything about whether or not that's resolved.
Right.
And so now we're in this weird spot where, like, there might not be anyone in the division
to fight. Or you're going to fight down, and you're just going to have to fucking deal with it.
Right. And, like, even if he wants to fight soon, Jack Della Maddalena just fought on July 15th.
Yep.
So, like, that's not even really an option. So your option is you hope that Sean Brady's there, or you're going to have to fight someone way down. Right? Because, like, it's not going to be Kevin Holland. That was your last fight.
I feel like the Machado Gary fight made most sense.
Yeah, like, that was the only option.
Because it wasn't even like... Because he could have went back and trained, and then maybe he didn't want to have the weight cut back-to-back.
Maybe, but, like, he was wanting a fight. So that's just kind of weird to me. But, yeah, that leaves Wonder Boy in a bad spot. And, like... You know, back to Kevin Holland, same deal. He's in a bad spot, right? Like, does he fight Shavkat? Does he fight? That's the only other person above him that's both healthy and without. Well,
maybe they do a rematch. Maybe they do Thompson Holland too.
Right, like that's probably, in order to keep those fighters active, the only thing that you could schedule, unless Sean Brady. But even still, that's one healthy guy for two different fighters. It's not gonna work. So someone's going to get the short end of the stick. And realistically, I think Kevin Holland, based on the fact that, coming off a win and is kind of in Dana's good graces, right? With taking fights, being basically on call whenever, ready to scrap, ready to fight, looking good in his fights, being entertaining, being in the time since he lost to Thompson on December 3rd, 2022, he's fought 2 more times already.
Right.
So, like, clearly Kevin Holland wants to stay active. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if you give Kevin Holland Sean Brady. But then that leaves Wonder Boy kind of in purgatory. So that's a weird division to shake out right now. Just too many injuries, too many unknowns, not enough information about when people are coming back, severity of injuries. And then obviously you still have to sort out the whole nonsense between the belt, right? Like, is Colby No Fights Covington gonna look decent against Leon Edwards?
When's that fight won't be until next year, right?
Right. So we're even still talking a long time for that. So, like, it's crazy how delayed that division is. Welterweight's in kind of a mess right now. Speaking of things that are a mess right now, Tony Ferguson looking real bad in that fight. So I will say,
was he lost the last 6?
Yeah, I got into an argument a little bit on Twitter with somebody who was saying that there was no damage to his eye, so the whole his eye was a problem thing was made up.
Because that changed the whole fight. Yeah,
I mean, that was my argument, right? Was that it changed the whole fight, that he was...
There was a picture of his eye. It didn't look great.
Yeah, I tweeted it out, and you can see that there's, like, the layer of his eye is, like, peeled back. Like, there's clearly a gash in that. He was saying he couldn't see. And just given Tony Ferguson's history, he's not a fighter that's going to make things up and make excuses. That's just not who he is.
Yeah. Right.
If anything, he's going to undersell how bad things are because he wants to fight so badly. And so I think that was a case of what happened. And, like, it was honestly rough seeing him get choked out and seeing his legs kicking like that. That was really depressing.
Yeah.
Like, as a Tony Ferguson fan, it's not great. Like, I love Tony, but he needs to stop for his own good. He's not going to.
He won't, though. He'll go to fucking some other...
He'll do, like, bare knuckle.
Or go to PFL.
Yeah, I mean, PFL will probably make a big deal about him.
Yeah.
But, like, he will do something. If UFC doesn't retain him, then he will find a way to destroy himself. He might even join like the slap fighting league, dude. He doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't.
He just wants to be out there competing. And he still believes he's the best. I mean, he said that we haven't even seen his peak yet.
Yeah, we did. He got really fucked over in his career.
Yeah, I mean, it's just untimely. It's a big what if, right? How many athletes are there what ifs for? Tony Ferguson's one of the big ones for UFC. I mean, you can look at Tony Ferguson. You could look at Nick Diaz as big what ifs, right? Like, what if things had been slightly different?
Yeah, what if he didn't get fucking banned for 2 years?
Yeah. What if Tony Ferguson didn't have the injury? Right? Like, what if? But what if doesn't matter.
Right.
And like,
because right when he hit his peak, when he was supposed to fight Nurmagomedov,
yep.
And that just got fucked. And then Conor came in.
Yep. I mean, just like the peak, though, for Tony, absolutely insane. So he lost in 2012 against Michael Johnson.
Yep.
Right. And then after that, rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Did he beat Cerrone? I think he did, right?
I think so.
12. Yeah, he beat Cerrone. So 12 fights in a win. 12 wins in a row.
Right.
12 fights in a win. Jeez, brain's not working today. And, like, that was against some pretty good fighters, right? So you had Edson Barbosa, right? You had, if I go through, Edson Barbosa's in there. I mean, Lando Venata back in 2016 was better than the version we see now, but still a fighter that is kind of dangerous. Rafael Dos Anjos. You also have, I'm forgetting this guy's first name, Kevin Lee.
Yep.
At his peak. And, I mean, frankly, Tony's 39. Probably going to be 40 before he gets another fight. Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone in there. And, like, the Cerrone one's a little bit late, but, like, it's tough to see it because he was such a good fighter. Things just never worked out right for him.
Right. It's sad.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you would hope that he'd be able to do something, but, like, he literally came in all the way up until this most recent 6 in a row. He only had 1 loss.
Right. Yeah, but he just lost.
Crazy.
Like the Kevin Chandler kick.
Yeah. Or Michael Chandler.
Yeah, Michael, sorry.
Yeah. So he was before that, right? Before that whole 6 in a row, he was 26-3.
Yeah, that's crazy.
26-3 looks way different than 26-9.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly wouldn't be shocked if
it does when they're all in a row.
Yeah. I mean, the one blip. And, like, if you're going to go back, that's a great fight to watch, too. Like, and that was peak. I've talked about, like, I was a big Johnson fan.
Yeah.
And, like, that's another fighter who's hung around probably a little too long.
Yeah.
Because if we look at, like, I mean, he got slept in his last one. That was ugly.
Bad.
Yeah. And I really hope that that's the end of it. I just don't think it will be. But, like, if you go, and, like, we've talked about him before, like, he has wins over Poirier. He has a win over Poirier. He's fought Nurmagomedov. He was fighting at the top of that division at the time that he beat Diaz. So, like, or not Diaz, sorry. I was looking at a picture of Diaz when he beat Ferguson.
Yeah.
So, like, if you look at what his run was, right? So, starting with the win over Tony Ferguson, then beat Castillo, lost to Jury, lost to Madadi, then won against Joe Lozon, Tebow, Guillard.
Joe Lozon, what a throwback.
Yep. Then beat Barboza, then beat Dariush, which shout out to Dariush. He's been around for a hot minute. Lost to Diaz, beat Poirier, then lost to Nurmagomedov, lost to Gaethje, lost to Elkins, And then after that, like, he peaked at right around beating Tony.
That had to be like early Dariush.
Let's see. Let's dig into Dariush's record. I mean, it was back in 2015.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dariush is also like older than people realize. Like, he's 34. He's been around.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of fights under his belt.
He's on the number 4 guy.
And I feel like Dariush was a little more hit and miss early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it actually wasn't that early in his UFC career. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was his 7th UFC fight. And back in 2015. So, yeah, he's been around quite a bit.
Wow.
It was his second year in the UFC, but he had a ton of activity. So 2014, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 fights in 2014.
That's a lot.
And then 1, 2, 3 fights in 2015. So 7 fights in 2 years is insane. So 7 fights in 24 months. That's like crazy. The levels of active that the UFC wants its fighters to be at. And this is before there were fights every freaking week.
Right.
Like, that's very, very impressive. But for Ferguson, it really is time. He's past his peak, even if he won't admit it. I just don't want that record to get tarnished. Like, I don't want to wake up one day and see Tony Ferguson at like 26-26 as a fighter. And I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Like, that's horrible to say, but the fact that that's even a possibility.
That would be tough. That would be tough to do.
That's 17 more losses.
In a row.
But, I mean, he's Tony Ferguson, dude. No one's going to tell him no.
Right.
But in positive news of people turning things around, Derek Lewis.
That was electric.
Looking mean. And coming in with a flying knee, dude.
Dude, he was not only looking mean, he was looking lean too.
Nobody told me that big men could fly. That just doesn't seem fair. At 38 years of age, he somehow looks better than he has in a while. To be fair, De Lima is not a great fighter. Like, De Lima's had a late career resurgence. Let me put it that way. And he's not...
I mean, it was good enough to get 8 more fights.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, right, because Derek Lewis got a new contract, 8 more fights with the UFC, right? I don't know how that one ages, right, because he is 38. 8 more fights at 38. Even because heavyweight, they have trouble scheduling. Like, there just aren't as many heavyweight fights that happen.
Even if you have 3 fights a year, which you probably won't.
No.
That's going to bring him into at least 41.
Right. Realistically, he'll be on that contract until 42, 43.
Yeah.
And you don't typically see that longevity in heavyweights unless they
he'll be
damage.
On like he'll be on some like fight nights in a couple, probably in like 2-3 fights. Or who's next for him?
Who's next? That is a tough question, right? So if we look at the rankings, heavyweight, Derek Lewis is now 10, right? If 9 is Jailton Almeida, I think he needs to be fighting higher, not lower.
Give him Tai Tuivasa.
He lost to Sergey Spivak, so it's probably not going to be that one. So realistically, I mean, I could see Tuivasa or Volkov. He did already fight Tuivasa and lost, so realistically, it's probably Volkov. That's the only person above him in the rankings that he hasn't yet fought.
Has he fought Blades?
He has fought Volkov. He beat Volkov, actually, back in 2018. He did fight Blades. That one...
Yeah, the Volkov fight, I'm pretty sure that's like my balls will hurt.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because, yeah, that was round 3 at the very end of round 3.
In what year?
2018.
Oh, no.
It was before he fought DC, so I don't know. So here's a crazy statistic.
Yeah, it would have been, because Trump was president, because he was like, Trump called and told me that the Russian motherfucker was talking shit.
Derek Lewis is certainly a master orator. But like that's the tough thing, right? He's got to have a rematch with people because he's fought everyone in the rankings. I don't think there's a single person. Like if I look at the rankings, so he's fought Volkov, he's fought Spivak, Tuivasa, Blades. He hasn't fought Tom Aspinall, but 0% chance Tom Aspinall's fighting down after coming off that huge win. He's not fighting Stipe. He's not fighting Cyril Gane.
I bet Aspinall fights Gane next.
I think that makes sense. But I think he'll also dominate Gane because Tom Aspinall actually has a ground game, which Cyril Gane seems to be confused by. Doesn't know what wrestling is. Pretty sure he thinks it's made up. And then he's obviously not fighting Sergey Pavlovich. So, like, I think Curtis Blades should fight.
Well, you're the thing. So after this fight with Jones and Stipe, right? You can assume it's going to be both of their swan songs.
Yeah.
They're both going to retire. So then that's going to open up the belt.
Right.
Right. So you hold Pavlovich and hold him until for the vacant belt.
Yeah.
And then maybe
I don't hate Aspinall.
The winner of Aspinall and Gane.
Yeah, I just don't think you give Cyril Gane another shot. I think you just jump him. I think you go. That's the tough thing is everyone's already fought everybody. So like the only one that we haven't yet seen that
Curtis Blades hasn't fought in a while.
Right.
And he looked good.
I think Curtis Blades versus Cyril Gane makes sense and save Aspinall for if you get the double retirement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so it'd be Aspinall and or you could do a rematch of Blades Aspinall because that was the one that Aspinall got hurt in, right? So like Blades has the W in the win column, but that's not real.
And the winner of that fight gets the title.
And the winner of that fight gets the title shot. That's your other option. But for Derek Lewis, that doesn't leave many options, right? Because if the top 5, which we're going to say the top 5 is pretty much out of reach, that means he's got Tuivasa at 6, Spivak at 7, Volkov at 8. So the only other fight for him is Jailton Almeida. But I think Almeida is going to fight up. So then he just beat 11, though. So he's not going to fight under 11. It just puts him in a weird spot. Or no, he didn't just fight 11. I could see him fighting Marcin Tybura. That wouldn't be a bad fight either.
Derek Lewis is going to get the winner of some fight. I
think so, but it might be a while before his next fight, just because so much of the division is tied up, and he's already fought so much of it.
He's in such good shape. You might want to fight again.
Yeah,
soon,
before he has too much cross time. Yeah, I mean, I will say he has not fought, from what I'm seeing. He has not fought Marcin Tybura, so that could be a good fight. Like, Tybura's coming off the loss against Aspinall, but, like, before that, he was on a streak.
Yeah.
So, like, beat Ivanov, beat Romanov. He did lose to Volkov, but, like, not a huge deal. Beat Harris, beat Tom Hardy by KO. Bless up. Tom Hardy's a piece of shit. Beat Rothwell. I mean, is it fair that he beat a Walmart employee? I don't know, dude, but fuck Greg Hardy. Beat Grishin. So, like, he has looked really good as of late. I think people are overlooking him because of how bad he looked against Aspinall, but that was Aspinall's night.
Yeah.
Like, and Aspinall, I think, is honestly the best prospect in the division. Like, Pavlovich has probably got the most power, but Aspinall is the most well-rounded.
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of, like, Stipe and John Jones, we're removing them from the conversation.
Yeah. Well,
theoretically.
In December.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a big question mark for Derek Lewis, but the one thing we do know, 8 more fights. That could be a good thing.
He's back, baby.
Yeah, his balls was definitely hot. The fact that he, like, stripped off his pants and just, like, swung them over his head was unreal.
Oh, he's electric, dude.
The fact that they gave him a mic after he did that is even more unreal.
Just pay-per-views, baby.
Yes, you definitely paid for the view, I guess. Nobody expected the big man to go with a flying knee and the strip inside the octagon.
That was electric.
I just couldn't believe that. Like, he took flight, and I was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. You don't see somebody that big move like that. You just don't. Because even with the cut, right, he was still up at, like, 260.
Right.
But I think he was at, like, 260 comfortably without a cut. So he actually lost weight down to 260 and didn't need a cut. Right. So, like, he's a much more athletic 260 than he has been in the past. And like, he clearly showed that. But 38 going for the flying knee right off the bat is wild. Just looked like a young Jorge Masvidal.
Dude, it was perfect.
Well, because, I mean, if I'm DeLima, I'm thinking to myself, no fucking shot that man does that. And then you're kind of, like, stuck in that moment of awe. You're like, there's no fucking way. And then you
hear the fucking, what was that? What was that?
Then you wake up 3 minutes later and you're like, what the fuck happened? There's no way that a flying Derek Lewis just took me out. That can't be real. The aerodynamics, the physics of it alone are insane.
His knee that high?
Getting his knee that high, jumping that high, jumping that far. The distance that he jumped was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of force it would take.
And it wasn't even like he pulled the knee in either.
Right. Like, it wasn't like he just barely made the distance, right? That's like if he had missed, he's probably slamming into the fucking cage. Like, that dude.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, dude, Air Lewis, bro.
I do think that a shirt of that would be hilarious.
That'd be elite.
Moving on to the last two fights of the card. That was Blachowicz and Pereira, which, honestly, that fight, like, I don't hate the decision. I think it's the right decision. I was just kind of a little disappointed in the fight. That one seemed like a letdown.
Well, I think Blachowicz, like, he didn't do himself any favors when he just sat down in the ring.
Yeah, like, it was bad optics looking that gassed.
He looked defeated.
Yeah.
He was like, I lost.
Yeah, definitely not ideal.
And Pereira got up and was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the strikes, right? 112 strikes to 82. Now, Blachowicz did have the 3 takedowns.
But he didn't do anything with him.
Right. He did have... So, I won't say that's necessarily true, because round 1, he did have 2 submission attempts out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also outstruck Pereira. Round 2, he did have the takedown, but nothing came of it, right? And so that's where the controversy arose, because, I mean...
Well, they gave Blachowicz round 1. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, 100%, I think that's deserved.
And then they gave Pereira round 2. And then it was round 3. They both needed to go, like... And Pereira went in looking to win, and Blachowicz went in like he already had won.
Yeah, so, like, I can see the argument of Blachowicz, right? And so here's what we're going to talk about, like, the difference of the takedowns, right? So round 1, we had 1 takedown attempt, but he had 2 submission attempts during that takedown, right? So it wasn't just control time. Round 2, no submission attempts, and he didn't throw a significant number of strikes while holding the position. He held the position.
It was like he gassed.
Yeah, I mean, round 3, he was absolutely gassed. I think he gassed himself in round 2. So that one was weird. I mean, the last 2 fights for Blachowicz have been interesting, to say the least. I mean, he had the draw with Ankalaev, and then now a fight where he looked good for about 45% of the fight.
It was almost like he underestimated Pereira.
I think so. I mean, I think he thought it was going to be an easier fight than it was. I mean, because really, I honestly had Blachowicz as an easy win, because I didn't think Pereira had any ground game. And that was shown. Like, Blachowicz was able to take him down. He just didn't do anything, which was weird.
Right.
Like, that's uncharacteristic. And now that could just be that, you know, time is undefeated, right? Blachowicz has been around for a minute. He's 40 years old, fighting in light heavyweight. I feel like the higher up you go in the divisions, the less kind the age is to you, right? Like, and he's been in wars.
Right.
So that's not He's not a spring chicken anymore, and I just legitimately think, yes, now Pereira's not that young either, but Pereira looked really fresh. I think not having to make that massive cut down to middleweight made him more at his natural size.
Yeah.
Because he's a big boy. I think the only reason he ever committed to middleweight was just so that he could haunt Adesanya's dreams.
Right, you could fight him.
Right, he had zero interest in anything other than Adesanya, and then once he proved that, and then got knocked out, there's really nothing more to prove.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, at 36,
you're not just gonna keep fighting Pereira. You know what I mean? That's the fight that he wanted was Pereira. He got it. Was Adesanya.
Yeah, and he got it twice.
Yep.
He got the better of it. He was the champ. He's content with that, although you would never know because he doesn't smile. But
you see what he did though? He I forget who it was. I think it was Gaethje. He saved him a chicken finger.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
He was because Gaethje was taking pictures.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, those look good." And he looked at him when he put one aside for him.
I mean, he is a genuinely funny person. If you haven't checked out
he's
his
a good
social
dude.
media, he looks like he's a great dad. He's just not a guy that smiles a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's a picture, and I think at this point it's become such a meme, and he's embraced it. There's a picture of him on a roller coaster. Everyone else has got their hands up, and they're all smiling.
Yeah,
he's just stone-faced.
Yeah, he's just sitting there.
He's like, best day of my life. No smile. It's... I do think he's funny. I think he's a great guy. I think in terms of, where the light heavyweight spot is, it's kind of in a mess right now because, again, injury to the champion, vacated belt. You have Yuri Prochazka coming back. I think it has to be Yuri and Pereira.
Yeah.
But that puts Magomed Ankalaev in a weird spot because you don't do Ankalaev-Blachowicz too, although it was a draw, so maybe you run it back and whoever wins there, or maybe you give Alexander Rakic a chance. Maybe Nikita Krylov, somebody goes up and fights Ankalaev, but Ankalaev has been inactive. His last fight was December 10th, 2002.
Yeah, I think Pereira gets. I think with the title vacated, I think Pereira gets a title shot.
Yeah, I think he's the more entertaining fighter, right? And Magomed needs to prove something after a draw.
Yep. So I think it's Pereira Prochazka.
I think so. I think that needs to be the fight, which I'm excited for. But I mean, even just taking a second to look at Ankalaev, right? Ankalaev's record is 18-1-1. The one draw, obviously, and then one loss. So he's got a good record, but now his record's not as pristine. So, he beat Anthony Smith, who hasn't looked great. He beat Thiago Santos, who's no longer with the promotion. He did beat Volkan Ozdemir. He did beat Nikita Krylov. But then Kute Laba and going back before that, people who aren't even remotely close to the top of the division, right? He did, and he lost to Paul Krieg, although Paul Krieg's now since moved out of the division. So his wins aren't aging well. Let me put it that way.
Right.
And not having anything new on the tape to show that you belong in the number 2 spot. You're in the number 2 spot because your record's inflated because you fought no names in the Eastern Bloc. That doesn't that doesn't inspire confidence. He needs to put something on tape again.
Right.
Alexander Rakic, I think, is the most logical fight for him.
Yeah.
If he wants to prove he belongs up there. Because coming off a draw, I don't think he stays at the top of the division. I think coming off a draw, he's got to fight down.
Yep.
He's proven that he's not champion material, so now he's got to prove that he could be again. And then that takes us to Poirier, Gaethje, which was a great fight. Wasn't long enough.
No,
which is a weird
more.
thing to say. I wanted more. I wanted Gaethje to win because I personally love Justin Gaethje. I don't dislike Dustin Poirier either. It was weird because I just wanted a great fight. And, it was a sick knockout. And it was the same knockout that Leon Edwards used on Kamaru Usman, right? The hiding the kick with the jab. And
Poirier had no idea that it was coming.
I mean, you could see there was a split second of indecision for Poirier, right? He had the hand up, and he could either try and block the punch or block the kick, and his hand wavered in between both, and you could see that like all it takes is a split second of indecision.
Yep.
With these elite fighters to cause these knockouts. Which, like, if we look at Poirier doesn't really get knocked out.
No, not anymore.
Right, not anymore. It's been a while. So, like, looking at his record, right? So, beat Chandler, lost to Oliveira. That's fine. The medical stoppage against McGregor, which I still don't really count as a win because, I mean, we've been over this time and time again. I don't think medical stoppages should count as losses. I said it with Tom Aspinall. It's not just because I'm a McGregor fan. It's just how I feel, right? So, like, the TKO by doctor stoppage just seems wrong to me.
Right.
Just seems ridiculous because that makes it sound like the fucking doctor won the fight. That's just ridiculous, dude.
I mean, if it was up to McGregor, he probably still would have fought.
He would have tried. But, so obviously, then before that, he beat McGregor in the rematch. He beat Dan Hooker, lost to Nurmagomedov, beat Holloway, beat Eddie Alvarez, beat Justin Gaethje. So, like, this is a guy who is an amazing fighter in his own right. The last time, so he's coming up again, Michael Johnson, last person to knock him out. Told you Michael Johnson was good, dude.
So what do you think? What's up for the division though? Like, because
it's
Makhachev's
in
gonna
such a
fight
weird spot.
Oliveira.
Right. So Makhachev fights Oliveira, and then Gaethje gets next crack.
Again, they're gonna Makhachev. Didn't Gaethje lose to both?
Let's see. So Gaethje's 4 losses. Yep, he lost to Oliveira. He has not lost to Makhachev. He has not fought Makhachev. Let me put it that way. So, his last fights, he beat Poirier, beat Fiziev, lost to Gaethje, beat Chandler, and then before that, he lost to Nurmagomedov back in 2020.
Yeah,
Nurmagomedov's last fight. So, he has not fought Islam Makhachev. So, if Makhachev is able to beat Oliveira, which I think is likely,
yeah,
then Justin Gaethje gets the next. And then maybe you do Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's a rematch, but I think Gaethje or Poirier lost. I know he lost to him lost to him last time. Did they fight way back in the day is my question. Because I have a feeling they fought like way back.
I don't think that Chandler McGregor fight's going to happen.
Oh, 0% chance. 0% chance. I'm not even considering Conor in this conversation. He's literally just there to get hype. I don't think he's going to fight again at this point.
Ever?
I mean, I don't think he's going to fight in UFC. Unless it's like
a box.
I think he would do like a boxing fight. Like I honestly like McGregor, Jake Paul. That's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, it's going to.
As much as I don't want to draw attention to Jake Paul and the nonsense, it's going to happen.
He's going to make $1 zillion.
Right. And, like, good for him. Go and make that money. But, like...
What did I tweet? I was like... Jake Paul and McGregor makes as much money, if not more, than... It was a good take.
What, you think it makes as much money as the fight with Mayweather?
Oh, wait. I said... I said Diaz and Paul in MMA would make as much as, if not a little less, than if Paul fought McGregor.
I think that'd be interesting. I think a lot of people want to see Jake Paul lose. I think, honestly, that, like, he has played almost like the perfect heel. And, like, I got to give him respect, right? So, I unfortunately did watch that fight. I needed to get the taste of the UFC fight night out of my mouth because that fight night was shit. Especially the fucking main event. It's just depressing.
Yeah, I finished 13 13 seltzers by myself, watching those.
Dude had to
just have an absolute day. Have an absolute day for myself.
Had to get absolutely demolished to stomach that shenanigans. But with like
is Nate Diaz the only person on planet Earth who can still win when he loses?
Might be, honestly. Like, everyone was cheering for him, right? Because, like, at this point, it's funny. Like, Nate Diaz is a more likable person than Jake Paul, right?
It looked like Jake Paul was fighting his like drunk uncle at at the barbecue.
Yeah, like it was just like. But think about it this way: so Diaz really had nothing to lose. First off, right? You're going up 2 divisions in weight. So he had to put on 20 pounds, and he didn't put on 20 pounds of muscle. He put on 20 pounds of however the hell he could get 20. It was a dirty bulk.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the cardio. He definitely won. In my mind, he won 3 rounds.
Yep.
Like, not great, not convincingly, but I think he won 3 rounds.
He's also not a boxer.
He's also not a boxer. He's a grappler.
He also got him a standing guillotine.
And he put him in a standing guillotine just for the podcast. So, I mean, you got to shout him out there, right? But the thing that stuck out to me was when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, why would you do that? But honestly, I think Nate Diaz won more fans. And, like, he won even though he lost. Because really, what did he take away from that fight? According to Jake Paul, they both walked away with like high 8 figures.
Yeah, they said that Nate Diaz earned more money in that one match than he did his whole career fighting UFC.
Not surprising. If it's 8 figures, we're talking about double-digit millions.
Yeah.
Right? Double-digit millions and he said into 8 figures. So, like, it's probably not 10. Right? It could be 15, 20, 25. We don't know.
Right.
But that man got paid, had a blast doing it, didn't get hurt, didn't get cut, and
didn't get knocked out.
Didn't get knocked out, obviously. And looked like he was having a fun time. And won himself some fans. He had a stadium of people cheering his name. And, you know, realistically, he lost on the record, but he won everywhere that it counted. And just the
people are back on Nate Diaz.
Yeah, I mean the shot of him putting Paul in that standing guillotine was unreal, and then like flexing with the other arm.
Yeah,
like that's just a casual reminder. Like, yeah, Nate Diaz is like a real fighter. Like his skills.
That's I tweeted that. I was like, we learned that. I was like, Jake Paul is a better boxer, but not a better fighter than Nate Diaz.
Right. Like at any point in time, Nate Diaz is going to grab the neck, choke the life out of him, and call it a day. Right. If that was a real scenario, if this was a real fight, it wouldn't even be remotely close.
No.
And like that's fine, and it's for, for funsies. I did enjoy it because it was kind of just a funny thing to watch. And like seeing the huge smile on his face when he threw Paul into a guillotine, and then was just
because the highest weight that Diaz has fought, I think, was 170 when he fought Conor the first time.
Yeah.
And then the second time.
Wait, did he fight Conor at 170 or 150?
170.
Why was Conor up at 170?
No, Conor wasn't at 170. Nate was like, because Nate was like a last minute move.
Oh, okay.
And then Nate went up. They went up to, and because Nate couldn't cut.
Yeah.
To 155 in time, so they fought at 170.
Was it like a catch weight?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
And then the second time, and then McGregor was like, I want to fight you at 170. I'm not going to fight you at 155 the second time because you beat me at 170. I want to beat you at 170 too.
So he was a welterweight at the end of his career, Diaz, but like predominantly the bulk of his fight was in lightweight. He had like one brief stretch that it was the first fight against McGregor in like 2010, 2011. Does that sound right? Because he randomly fought at one point in welterweight. Don't know why. Was that wasn't Ultimate Fighter, was it? Was he in a weird weight class for Ultimate Fighter?
I don't think so.
Let's see. So we go back to 2010, 2011. So let's see. His fights in 2010. So Gray Maynard, Rory Markham, Marcus Davis.
It was in
Donovan Kim.
It was in 2016.
Yeah, so he like randomly fought like a couple people up. Yeah, so 2016. And
They fought at welterweight, which is 170.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where Diaz was at the end of his career, so that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, he couldn't. But I don't think he could go down.
Yeah, so Connor came up.
Yep.
But even then, what's the weight that Jake Paul fights at then?
185.
185. Okay, so he's still going up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jake Paul was way bigger.
Yeah. I mean, Jake Paul was like 185 solid muscle, and Nate Diaz looked like he had just come from a barbecue and had like a bunch of beers.
Well, he's always been skinny fat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, there's a huge difference between like he legitimately had a gut. Like he
Yeah,
he
but
had a
his
little,
gas tank is incredible.
yeah, I mean he's a triathlete, dude. Like he's never gonna gas.
And he's a vegan.
Yeah. It's like I think that's why he kind of looks skinny fat, right? Like maybe he's not getting technically enough protein, but like I'm not gonna tell a dude who would absolutely sleep me that he's not getting enough protein.
Yeah.
That's just not a thing I'm gonna do.
I'm not a dietitian.
Right. Like I'm wildly out of shape, and that guy could end my miserable existence. I'm not gonna say that veganism is wrong. Clearly, it's working for him. He had a very successful career. Moving forward, talking about the last UFC fight night, which was pretty much meh. Pretty like I will say the Carlston Harris Jeremiah Wells fight was pretty sick. Carlston Harris coming back in round 3 with a submission win. That one was, if I'm gonna make a comparison, just real quick, the Cody Durden Jake Hadley fight was amazing. Round 2 is arguably one of my rounds of the year. I think it should have been fight of the night. I think the only reason it didn't get one, well, there was no fight of the night, but if there was going to be any fight of the night, I think it should have been that. I don't think it got one, though, because round 3, Hadley had gassed by the end of round 2, and so Durden just kind of walked through round 3.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that Durden wasn't still fighting. It's just like fights of the night to me need to be like competitive back and forth, and round 3 was very much just Cody Durden. But round 2, Hadley almost got a finish. Durden almost got a finish. It was just like at any second you could see it ending, and it just didn't end. Like if we look at Hadley threw 27 strikes.
291 didn't have a fight of the night either.
Yeah, which is odd. I don't know why they're not doing that. Probably because he doesn't want to pay $50K to both guys. But that one...
The last time there was a fight of the night was Danny Roberts and Johnny Parsons.
Yeah, that's... I mean, don't get me wrong. Great fight, but they should be doing fight of the nights for every card. But that's just my take.
I just don't think that you get a fight of the night when you make Uncle Dana leave.
Yeah, right. Like, but that was the thing is, like, even if you hated the Sandhagen and Font fight, like, and we'll get into that at a little bit more detail, like, you shouldn't punish the rest of the card because the main event was boring.
Yeah.
All right, that to me is like a really childish kind of behavior.
And I mean, it might have been a boring fight, but like they're still fighters and they're still trying to win. So like they're doing whatever they can to win.
Right.
And if that was the game plan, that's a game plan.
And
like, not every fight's gonna have a fucking knockout or a submission or like.
Right. And Rob Font was a late replacement. to cut him some slack. And we'll jump to that after this. We'll jump into that full breakdown after I make this just one point. Like, I want to highlight the refereeing in the Durden Hadley fight was awesome. The ref was constantly checking the holds, making sure that the fighters weren't at risk of like a major injury, checking in with fighters, having them give them the thumbs up, making sure that they're good. Like, he was on the ground, crouched down, hopping back between different viewpoints. Compare that with the Jeremiah Wells-Carlston Harris fight, where the referee didn't even notice that Jeremiah Wells was out cold. Just snoozing, taking a little nappy poo. But also Bisping was like, oh, yeah, he's not going to get the finish from that angle. And then, like, less than 30 seconds later, or I don't even think, I think it was like 10 seconds, Wells was asleep. But I just wanted to point, like, that's the way that you handle grappling. Like, you have to get low, you have to change positions, you have to check in with fighters. So shout out when the ref does something well. In that case, that was it. But talking about Sandhagen and Font, right? So there's two things that I think people really aren't considering here, is that Sandhagen was supposed to fight Nurmagomedov.
Yep.
He trained in his one area of weakness, which was grappling. He probably trained exclusively in grappling.
Right.
It's the only thing that he felt he needed to do. On top of
especially
that,
because that's what the Nurmagomedov is known for.
Right. And like, Rob Font is a boxer. Right? Like, he's a striker. He's not a guy that like wants to go to, like, he's got 5 career takedowns. There's not a guy who wants to take you to the mat. He's a guy that wants to knock you out. Now, he does have 4 wins by submission. So, like, that's not to say that he can't do anything on the ground. But that's not his, method.
Right.
So with him, he's looking for that knockout punch. If you're Corey Sandhagen, why are you going to try and fight fire with fire when you could just put the fire out?
Right.
Right? Like, you want to talk about putting on a performance. Rob Font, is a very good striker. He had 9 significant strikes the entire 5 rounds. He had 25 punches.
Yeah, I mean, Sandhagen controlled the fight the whole time. Like, it was like, it wasn't close.
What's insane is that round 4, he had 0 significant strikes and only 2 punches thrown. Or two total strikes. Neither of which were significant. In 5 minutes, he could only throw 2 fights. Or two punches. Now, Sandhagen was 7 of 7 on his takedowns. He did have 1 submission attempt, but you can argue that he didn't really do a lot, right? He threw 132 strikes, but only 34 were significant.
Yeah.
He really didn't do a lot.
I wonder if he was injured more than...
Well, I mean,
because the elbow looks not great.
Well, yeah, it was a torn tricep. So that whole upper arm on his right hand, I think it's his right arm, rather, is jacked. That's what he's going to throw punches with. If he can't do that, yeah, he's got to get weird with it. He's got to get strategic with it. But you can't blame him for that. He's hurt. He's trying to get the win. He does get the win. And everyone's mad that he gets the win. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. He did what he needed to get the win. You may not like how he gets the win, but he got the win. Now, like, I don't want him to do that every fight, certainly,
right?
Because lay and pray I have always been against. I think it's one of the most boring fighting styles. But Corey Sandhagen is not a lay and pray fighter.
I think it's his left arm.
Is it? Either way, right? Jacked up his arm.
Well, he had to have surgery.
Yeah. So, like, he's going to be out for a bit, right? It's not like it's I sprained something, right? A torn tricep, and the whole arm is, like, black.
In round 1.
In round 1. It's completely discolored. It's wild to look at. But like,
I wonder what. Maybe it was his right. I don't know. It looks like it. In the picture where he's getting his hand raised, it looks like it was his right.
yeah,
But in all the other pictures, it looks like it's his left. But it might just be the angle.
The angle. Let's see.
There's a picture because there's a picture on his Instagram that looks like it's his left.
Yeah, I think it was when he threw his elbow. Because the shot that they have is he's throwing a left elbow. And then, yeah, somebody else is taking that picture, but that's a left arm. Because you can tell by the cut of his oblique. Like, that wouldn't be his right side. That would be his left.
Right.
So, yeah, it's his left arm. But still, like, significant injury. He does look like there's something with his right shoulder, you're right. But if you look at the picture of him raising his arm, look at the tricep and, like, how low it's hanging.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty grody. So, again,
the one with the tattoo on it?
Yeah. Like, look at how low, like, his arm looks jacked, but it's because his tricep's literally hanging off of the bone.
Yeah.
That's not what his arm looks like. It's weird. But, like, if we look at him, he's a very exciting fighter. And he's like a KO guy. He needed to get the win, so he found a way to get the win. It's not the way that he fights. And if we look at his losses, he's got 3 losses in the UFC. His 3 losses are against Petr Yan, TJ Dillashaw, and Aljamain Sterling, the current champ and 2 former champs. This is a very good fighter. He's going to be in a very good spot. And, like, it sounds weird to say, like, this is good timing, because it probably is. Like, no time is good timing for an injury.
Right.
But if we look at the state of the division right now, you have Aljo and O'Malley, and then you probably have Merab coming back from injury. Then you have Cejudo with a claim, right? Like, people still say that he actually won against Aljo. So, like...
And then you hear Dillashaw. Dillashaw was like, I'm still the best.
Yeah, well, TJ Dillashaw can go do some steroids and shut the fuck up. Like, let's call it what it is. But so, like, Sandhagen's 4, but he's a few... There are a few fights ahead of him that need to be settled before he would get title shot, right? So he's probably due for a layoff anyway. So use that time, rest, recover, and then come back and look at a title shot. Hopefully afterwards, right? When
because who was he supposed to fight? Oh, yeah, Umar.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight Umar Nurmagomedov. And then Rob Font stepped in instead. And, like, so he's lost to Petr Yan, so that's probably not going to happen. He beat Chito Vera, and Chito's about to fight again. He beat Rob Font. He beat Song Yadong. Dominic Cruz isn't real.
He beat Song Yadong by the eye. Wasn't it eye poke? Wasn't it?
No. It was a legitimate cut.
Yeah.
Like, he opened up a cut, and it would not stop bleeding. And so, like, the ref called it because of the bleeding. But, like, that one's different than, like, a freak. Like, I don't hate that one. Like, I hate the Connor one because that's a freak accident, right? Like,
yeah.
Same thing with the O'Malley thing. It was a freak accident. That is what bothers me when that goes down as a loss. But a guy using his fist opened up a cut and caused the injury. That's a different matter altogether. Like, yeah, some guys it's going to screw over, like Nate Diaz, who's like 90% scar tissue at this point. Like, that man's face is hamburger. But that is the reality of it. I think that one, I'm fine with calling that one a win. Which might be a weird distinction, but it's fine by me. But looking ahead, Luque Dos Anjos is next. Vicente Luque might die. That might be the only draw on this fight. Like, dude had bleeding in his brain. I don't know what doctor cleared him to get punched in the head repeatedly, but that guy should probably have his license stripped. Like, that's insane to me. Man should not be fighting.
Yeah.
He was an exciting fighter once upon a time. right? He did have quality wins once upon a time. He's been out of it for like a year. Shouldn't be back in. Just not a thing that should be happening. Like Jeff Neal broke his brain. Shouldn't be fighting again. A year later. Just shouldn't happen. But he's lost to Jeff Neal. He's lost to Bilal Muhammad. His last quality win is against Michael Chiesa. He did beat Tyron Woodley, but that was 2021 Tyron Woodley. That's not real. He beat Randy Brown. Like, there's just not a lot of quality fights on here. Like, his record hasn't aged well. Not a lot of the guys that he has wins over are even still in the division. I guess he has beaten Bilal in the past, but now they're tied. So, like, maybe a Bilal three-peat if he wins this fight. But I think it's more likely that we see Vicente Luque die of a fucking hemorrhage than him ever sniffing the belt.
Right.
Like,
and then the only other fight that I noticed was Juliana Miller's coming back.
Yep. Juliana Armbar Miller.
Yep.
If she doesn't get the armbar, she doesn't win, baby. It's the way it is. There's a couple of fighters here. Like, if I'm being entire, like, these aren't great fights. Like, nothing massive is being settled here, but there are fights that I'll watch. Like, Khalil Roundtree Jr. I like. He's one of those fighters that is, when he's on, looks unbeatable, but isn't always on. He big time striker, Muay Thai guy. Only ever attempted one takedown in his career, so you just know that he's going to stay on his feet. And Chris Daukaus is coming down from heavyweight into light heavyweight.
Yep.
And this guy's a puncher. So, like, that's going to be a wildly violent fight. So that one I think could be very good. I don't hate Josh Fremd, Jamie Pickett as a fight. I don't think Jamie Pickett's going to win, but, like, Josh Fremd is an interesting fighter to me. Marcus McGee, the featured prelim. That was the guy who came in on short notice and won. His debut against Journey Newson. That one I think could be interesting. Yeah. Francis Marshall, coming off his first loss, fighting a guy who doesn't even have a picture on the UFC page. But this guy's 5-0. This is his debut. That could be an interesting fight as well. The heavyweight fight, I think, is going to be extremely painful and would be one that I recommend not watching. Because Martin Boudet's last fight, like, he won, but it was one of the most, like, obnoxious fights to watch. Both guys were gassed. Both guys were sloppy. Neither guy could really fight. And it was like a case of he gassed a little bit less than the other guy, and so he got the win.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, Damon Blackshear, I think is an interesting fighter as well. So he hasn't had the best entrance into the UFC, but against Lacerda showed that he has skill and is someone that, like, Dana White is really big on. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. So that could be a big fight for him, right? So there are some fighters, there are some fights that I'll definitely watch the card just because, like, what else am I going to do on a Saturday night, quite frankly? But because, I mean, that's just how it is. That's my Saturday nights. My Saturday nights are UFC nights.
What a way to live.
Yep. And then the next Saturday, obviously, UFC 292 will be there.
Yeah,
like that's going to be incredible. That's the first time I've ever been to a UFC fight. Never had the chance before.
I've been to, like, small shows, small promotions.
I haven't even been to any. I haven't even been to, like, a small, even, like, boxing fight. Like, I've been to nothing, not even, like, wrestling. So this for me is, like, my first combat sports experience.
Yeah, it'll be lit.
And yeah, I think it's weird that they still haven't, like. So the card's not quite finalized, only because they're waiting on the last fight from the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
So it's like the first one. It's going to be Austin Hubbard versus Kurt Hollabaugh. That was decided Tuesday night. I don't even know what day it is. Today is what, Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple nights ago. And then you have what's that creepy dude? The serial killer looking motherfucker. Who switched to Team McGregor. Oh, Katona. Brad Katona.
Yeah, he's going for the
double win.
The two-peat.
Yeah, I mean that guy. I'm pretty sure he's got bodies in his basement.
He might.
Like I might be one of them if I keep talking shit. He might watch this podcast, dude, and then hunt me down at UFC Boston. It's all right. He's like half my size. I think I'll be okay. Dude's like 5 foot nothing.
Hey, whoa.
125 pounds.
Watch it.
Okay, but you're not 125 pounds, dude.
Yeah, it used to be.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
When you were like 10.
No. 18.
I'm just messing with you. But like looking at that card, because we'll talk about this way more at length. But there's some.
Next week.
We talked about the Neil Magny coming in and swapping for Machado Gary. So like there's still some pieces moving around. I have an absolutely electric sound bite that we're gonna play for that. So remind me. But it's an interview from 2 years ago that from Cody Garbrandt. And how things have changed. But yeah, so there's going to be one more fight added. I still think it's light. But
there's only going to be one more fight, but there's two.
Yeah, that's already been added to the card. They just updated it today.
Wait. So who is it?
It's Austin Hubbard and Kurt Hollabaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is going to be a good fight. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fights. It's going to have a 12-fight card. That's
pretty good.
That seems a little light. 15 is what I would hope for. 15 is like a full card in my mind. Like 5, 5, 5. With this, you're going to have probably the 3 fights. So, like, the 2 women's fights, or the first 2 women's fights will be early prelim. And then probably Petrosky-Mearshart goes the first early prelim, or the last early prelim. Then you switch over to the prelims, and that's going to have the UFC finale. So, like, that's why I'm making a big push for us to be there for the beginning.
Right.
Like, because you're going to see the end of The Ultimate Fighter. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a pretty unique experience.
It will be. He'll be sick.
So you'll have the Austin Hubbard, Kurt Hollabaugh, and then Brad Serial Killer Katona versus whoever. I want to see Rico DeShulo win and get a Boston guy in the final at UFC
that'd
Boston.
be elite.
That'd be a great storyline. Love to see that happen. And then, so that would be 2 fights, 3, 4. Like, that would mean, I would think that Chris Weidman, Brad Tavares is probably the featured prelim.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to go out on a limb. But I also think that Cody Garbrandt doesn't deserve to be on the main card. I think he should be a prelim. But that fight's listed above the Chito Vera Pedro Munez fight, which makes no sense.
Which is weird.
Like, the Chito Vera should be opening the card. Then you have Neil Magny, Ian Machado Gary, then Zhang Weili, and then the title fight. Or the second
they're
title
both
fight.
title fights.
Yeah. I corrected myself. The second title fight. So, like, I think the main
maybe,
card...
Maybe that's why it's little, because the two title fights, it's like 3 regular fights, because it's 10 rounds.
Yeah, that is true. So it is 10 rounds. There's 2 10-rounders. So I'm okay with having a 4-fight main card with 2 title fights. I just don't think Cody Garbrandt and Mario Batista belong on the main card.
Yeah.
Like, that should be bumped down to below, in my opinion. Like, that should be below Chris Weidman, in my opinion. Because Chris Weidman's return is a bigger story for Boston, right? Like,
that's gonna be sick too.
I mean, it could be sick if he snaps his fucking leg again.
I hope not.
If he comes in, throws a kick, and it's just Dunzo Manifesto, I'm gone.
I'm gonna puke.
I am going to have so many beers to get that image out of my head, and it will never leave. Never leave. It's like the Kevin Ware injury, dude.
Yeah.
That shit haunts me. That's like a decade-old reference at this point. And it is... So, like, that was... What year was that? Yeah, it's 10 years. Literally a decade-old reference. But that I can still remember that like it's nothing. Like, Kevin Ware's not even that, like, significant of a basketball player. And I don't like college sports. But it was that big of a... like, a moment that just stuck with me for 10 years. Just nastiness. One of the jokes I always make is... So, my fantasy football league with my buddies that I've had been playing with since college... I made a comment in our last draft that I don't believe in college sports.
Yeah.
Just like as a former, like the irony though is like I'm the only one out of my friends group who played an actual college sport, and like I've gone over it before, like just like the injuries and everything. Like it's just not worth it. When I was playing, we didn't have NIL deals. We didn't have any money. If you're not in Division I, most people don't realize this. NCAA doesn't give out scholarships for Division II and Division III.
It's for the love of the game.
Right. So, but like, is that worth the wear and tear on your body? Because most people, again, don't even realize, like, high school, your sports are seasons. College, it's year-round. So, like, I was playing 2 sports year-round that require very different physiques with hockey and tennis. And the damage I did to my body was just not worth it. So I just made the joke, I don't believe in college sports. Like, as a concept. Not that they're not real. I just don't believe in the value of college sports. It's probably what I should have said. But so one of my buddies' fantasy football teams is I don't believe in college sports. Just because it was such an like ridiculous statement for the only person to have played. Because they were all talking about like college football and like all the college football games they were gonna go to, and I was just like, it was like I don't care about college sports and I don't believe in the value of college sports. It just came out like I don't believe in college sports. Just not a real thing, dude. And then, like, they all forgot that I played, so they were just like, what do you mean, like, you've been to sporting events? And I was like, yeah, I've also played in college sports. I just don't think it's worth it. But, I don't know. It's just one of those things, like, if Weidman gets that nasty leg break again, I might have to leave UFC. So...
No, can't.
Like, I would leave 292.
Go for a walk.
No, I might not watch Weidman just on the off chance that something happens, dude.
Through your fingers?
No. I'm just going to literally go and use the bathroom then after, like, the 17 beers because we're pre-gaming in the parking lot before we
you can't even do that. There's no parking lot.
All right, fine. We'll pre-game on the tee then, dude.
Jesus. I haven't done that since freaking 2010.
Right, we gotta get a throwback. Ay. All right, well, we'll talk more about the shenanigans.
Well, before we wrap up, I think we should bring up the fact that we always shit on Herb Dean, but
oh yeah, you're right. How did I forget?
Elbow.
Herbie Hustle, dude, with the people's elbow. I've actually drawn up a mock of what a T-shirt would look like for Herbie Hustle, or the picture of him dropping the people's elbow on Poirier. I may tweet that image out and see if there's any interest in it, but that to me, I still might just buy it for myself because it was a fun mock-up to make.
I need one too.
But Herb Dean, for all the shit that people give Herb Dean about not like coming in quickly, he prevented what could have been a serious follow-up on Poirier when he was out cold. Like, Gaethje came in and there was like one hammer fist. It was like a half-hearted hammer fist, right? It wasn't anything like massive, like crazy follow-up shots. Like, forget who it was. Was it Krylov? If that's how. But one of the fighters got in like 2 really big shots before the ref was able to get in.
Yeah.
And Herb literally sprinted from the other side of the cage Oh, Kopylov, not Krylov. So it was Kopylov on Ribeiro. But Herb sprinted across the cage so quickly, in fact, that he tripped and fell in the middle of trying to break it up and then landed elbow first into the sternum of Dustin Poirier. Like, it really is. It looks like the people's elbow. It's unreal.
Electric.
Just such a good picture that I found and then was able to make into a fun t-shirt design. So I'll tweet that out now before I forget. But what a moment for Herb Dean. We got to give him, or I shouldn't say tweet because it's not Twitter anymore. I will post that now.
Exit out, dude.
No, it's called posting, which is just stupid.
Post it out.
Yeah, I gotta make a post. And it's not a retweet anymore. It's like a repost.
Love it.
I hate it. Absolutely vile. All the ways that the Elon Musk stands don't even realize that he has ruined everything. He's not that guy.
We had a good thing. We had a good run.
Was it ever a good run though, or was it just him stealing everyone else's
Twitter.
ideas? Was that ever a good run?
With Twitter?
Yeah.
As like a platform?
Oh, you're saying Twitter had a good run, not Elon Musk at Twitter had a good run.
You're right. Yeah. We need a montage of the "I will remember you."
That would actually kind of be funny. It's like the death of Vine, but way more public and way shittier.
Oh, I loved Vine. But that's neither here nor there.
Right. Back in the day. We're making old references that are dating us, Ryan. We can't do that.
Shit.
We're getting real old.
Shit.
All right, hold on. I'm tweeting out Herbie Hustle right now. UFC 291. Yeah. So now you can see the mock-up on our official Twitter, which of course is at TSG MMA Podcast, or I should say official X. That's so weird to adjust to. I'm gonna have to change the logo in our freaking podcast thing, dude. I can't use the Twitter logo anymore.
For old time's sake.
For old time's sake. All right. I'll do it for the bird. That's who I feel the worst about is Tweety. Tweety didn't deserve to go out like that.
Nope.
Out like a dog in the street, dude. Unreal.
Old Yeller.
Yeah, right. Got the old Yeller treatment. All right, well, that takes us to the end of this week. Obviously, we're going to talk way more about 292 because I don't think there's going to be a lot to talk about this week's upcoming card. I just don't think it's that good, frankly. But we will review if there are any good fights maybe worth watching. This one might be one where if you have friends or a social life, maybe make plans for Saturday. And if you have ESPN Plus, watch the review. Of course, I'll be watching it live because, one, I don't have friends, and two, I don't have a social life, but that's neither here nor there. I'll be watching it. I'll probably tweet out a couple of good things. You can catch replays, whatever you want. Check out the, I said tweet, but I mean post. You gotta check out the X, dude. I feel like it's weird if I tell people to check out my ex. That's weird. I'm going to get smacked by my wife, dude. She's going to be listening to this. Why were you talking about your ex? I swear to God, it's Twitter. No, that's right. I already warned her about that. Because, see, I'm a smart man, and the reason why I've been successfully married and in a relationship we've been dating for 10 years. The reason it's been successful is because I know when things could potentially cause a problem, and I preempt them. Right, I was like, I know sometimes she listens to the podcast. If she were to skip ahead and randomly hear about me telling people to check out my ex, that could be a problem. So we've already had the conversation about Twitter rebranding to X just so that I don't get murdered and we can continue, so I can at least see UFC 292 before I go.
Yes, we know what happens if Sadie doesn't show up to work.
Yeah, right. If I'm not here later in the day, we know why. I might not be here after 292, right? I'll be stumbling in at 2 in the morning. If I wake the kids up, I'm going to get murdered.
Hey, I'll probably sleep on the street.
Yeah. I mean, that might be. I might sleep in the garage, dude. That might be the only play. Sleep on the back porch.
You go sleep in my old room.
Yeah. You know what I'll do is I'll get one of those standing hammocks and just put it up on the back porch and just sleep in that.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll be fine. Just my luck it'll rain that day.
Oh well.
I mean, I won't even feel it, dude. I'm gonna be honest with
We
you.
should be alive.
The last time I went to
Maybe.
a sporting event and got absolutely demolished was it was Red Sox Yankees a couple years ago, and just had an unreal amount of vodka lemonades. And one of the guys I went with had knew the bartender from when he worked at Fenway, and so we just got heavy pour. And we were sitting there in a rain delay, and it took me like 15 minutes into the rain delay to realize that it was raining. I was like, why isn't the game on? And like, dude, we're getting rained on. Do you not feel that? I'm like, no.
Nope.
Like,
This is great.
That should have been the warning that I should have stopped. But because it was before the 7th inning stretch, I was like, dude, here's an opportunity for me to get 2 more, because they let you buy 2 at a time. So I got 2 more on top of that. Like, I already couldn't feel the fact that I was getting rained on. I then added 2 more on top of that.
Love it.
Definitely not what my liver needed, but it's what I needed, body and spirit, dude. I think I had some sort of responsibility the next day, too. I forget what it was. Like, I was supposed to wake up and go do something.
Did not do that.
Probably a family event.
Oh,
But, like, I woke up and absolutely yacked.
oh, love it.
And was like, okay, not doing
Back
that
to bed.
again. Yeah. Straight back to bed. I feel like, what was it? So my wife, like, woke me up and was like, are you alive?
Nope.
I was like, nah, I'm dead. I think she, like,
Bye.
I was supposed to take, like, the kids to the park or something.
Ugh.
And it just wasn't going to happen. Because they were up at, like, 7 a.m. Like, yeah, let me just go ahead and wake up at 7 a.m. I got home at, like, 2. Let me wake up 5 hours later with a brutal hangover and bring the kids to the park. That's exactly what I want.
Don't want to do that.
Yeah. I don't want to do that on the best of days, and that was not my best of days. All right, well, we'll get into the shenanigans and tomfoolery of 292. We obviously will have a lot of content for the next couple weeks. I think it'd be cool to do some sort of like a live video while we're at the event, something like that. Just
Yeah, we can work it out.
we'll figure something out. I mean, we're gonna be all the way up in the nosebleeds, so we'll have obviously the best angle to set up the camera. So, although if we post a video, Uncle Dana might come after us for trying to, stream the event.
Fuck them.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna. I'm gonna get in a fight with the roided up bald man. That's a good idea. All right, well, for real, that does it for this week's podcast. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.